factors like diseases. So now, this Viking justice system you're seeing here, these animals, first of all, they have their characteristics that are different from the other animals that you may know. They are likes of ankole. Because you always find them brown. They have a cape or a hood that you always see on their forehead here. They're having a different system. And for them, they don't consume a lot per day. Secondly, their growth levels are not like those of that, of a Frisian cow. Usually, their body conditioning system is about 3.5 to 3. The body conditioning system of one ankole, a Frisian cow, you always find it in 4, 4.5, and even 5 plus. And then this other animal is well known for having milk that is full of high butter content, which is not the same scenario with the Persian cow. So companies like Jessa will be much interested to carry on such an animal because the companies which are looking at production of yogurt, cheese, and those other value-added products from milk. So when you're looking at that, you consider buying such an animal for yourself. This one being it has high quality milk. But when you're considering factors of production, you're not considering quality but quantity. You'll go for what? The Frisian cow. Because the Frisian cow in a day is an animal that can give you about 35 liters per day. And yet its consumption levels are between 25 kgs to 30 kgs of what? Intake. Which is not the same case scenario with the what? With the Jazza animal. The Jazza animal always consumes about 15 to 20, maximum 25, which is rare. They always stop at 20 per day kgs of intake. So you may ask me why they are feeding from here, why they are not feeding from out in the paddocks. So, being that this is dry matter has high nutritive quality. That's why we consider feeding it to the animals other than the fresh grass, other than the fresh what? So, you'd ask me why we were using this because as I was coming in, some gentlemen asked me, "What are they feeding on? What is this? Why are they feeding from here?" I hear the first question. Why we are doing this as I told you, because of the fact that this has a high nutritive quality. You may sit and think it's only one type of feed, but this is a mixture, or what we call a total mixed ration. Why you call it total mixed ration? Because it's comprised of different ingredients in its composition here. Here we have silage. It can either be napier silage or it can be maize silage. I think you've heard about what they call corn or maize silage. This is the point where we harvest our maize and then we chop it and then we ensile it. Ensiling, I mean, this is a process where the maize chops are gotten and then either they are put in a pit or they are put on a bare ground, compressed, put some molasses onto them, cover them completely to the point whereby you're not allowing oxygen to encroach into it. Why? Because we want to ease the process of what? Fermentation. One fermentation to go on for about a period of 3 to 4 weeks. You can even do it up to a year. When you go to those countries abroad, they do ensiling for even a full year. Because there are seasons where you cannot have this, you cannot harvest, you cannot plant. Like let's say you have winter, you have summer. You have to plant for all those seasons. And this is how all this was invented. So you can do the same thing or the same process with napier. Napier or what we call elephant grass. Those are the two prominent grasses we are using. Either we're using napier or we're using maize to make what? Silage. You will not find that being done with hay. Because hay, we may use types like Floris Guyana, Bracaria murato. We are using lab grass or guinea grass. So these are grasses whereby if it's a dry season like this, you go to your garden, to your farm, chop them, or use a mower, or use any other system you are using to harvest. Chop them, leave them to dry in the open space, and then after you use a baler or what we call a hay baler to formulate what they call bales. Or you can do it locally using a system of wood that is in a square format to formulate your bales. I think you've seen what bales are. Bales are this is dry grass which is put together, covered. Yes. So I think you've seen it before. This is a new system that we're using currently in Uganda here, whereby you don't have to take your animals out there for grazing, where they will encounter vermins like ticks and other dangerous animals to endanger this cat of yours. So with this system, after having making sure that you've harvested your head, you've fermented your silage, that's where you get to a point where you are mixing them. Here we have the mixer wagon. It's called the mixer wagon. A mixer wagon is where we get to know how much does an animal feed, how much of hay does it need in a day, how much of silage does it need per day. And then you get to know that according to the number of animals you have at your site. After getting to know that is where you get this feed. According, maybe like, giving an example here, we mix 2 tons of silage every day. Then we mix about 1 ton of hay every day. Then we mix about 500 kilograms of growers waste every day. Then we mix about 100 liters of molasses every day. Then we mix about rice bran, 200 kgs, wheat bran, 400 kgs. So with all this, we have reasons why we are doing this. We want first of all to make sure our TMR is well balanced, whereby if we are providing these animals need to have enough proteins, they need to have again to have enough energy, which are going to get from carbohydrates. So meaning if your TMR is not well organized, you're going to have issues of poor digestion, poor nutrition, poor body conditioning scores, or probably low production, and on top of that even deaths if you're not careful. And of course, if these animals are not eating a well balanced diet, they are going to have issues of susceptibility to diseases. And of course, if those issues start coming in into your herd, you're going to find complexities running your herd. So, we have another system we have invented here. Now, that was the part of feeding. We are done with feeding part. We have had another system which we have invented of cleaning. You realize when you go to the sites out there, it's going to be very complicated for you to have such a system and you don't have what we call a scraper. This scraper helps you to cut onto the labor costs that you're going to incur your farm when doing the cleaning. This scraper, it helps us collect all the cow dung in the freeway ground for the animals, and this is what they are feeding from. So as they are feeding, they are excreting. They are feeding, they are excreting. You ask yourself why it is a cow shit, but it's not smelly, because the scraper is always doing its work. It is electronically controlled from there to the system. I don't think you saw it when you enter the way feeding with it. It's just there on the wall. That's where we control it from. So it works like a pulley system. As one side is going down, one side is coming back up. Get my point? So as you're pulling here, one is going up. So it has flippers. Flippers are always either up or down. The flippers are there, they are made of rubber. So as that scraper is moving down, it is pushing the cow down. So this other side is coming back up, but the flippers are up, and it's only the rollers which are moving. Because we don't again want to bring back the cow down up. You get my point? Yeah. So even when it lands here again, we are still going to turn it on, the flippers will get back down, and the rubber part will be pushing this cow down all through. So we put it at a reasonable speed because we don't want to trick these animals and make them lame or probably endanger them with any kind of wound. So it moves at a systematic speed. So the cows, the fact that they are used, they are able to move their legs. They could continue feeding properly like this. They could just move their legs systematically and the machine passes. Because it's passing out slowly. You get my point? So by the time we have a collection point the other side where if in case the cow down has been pushed, it is collected from. It's like a small pit there. Then through that small pit, because it was made a bit sloppy, so entirely, if it's a bit soggy, it's a bit liquidified, it will move automatically. If it is solidified, it will remain there. Not until you come and probably add some pressurized water for it to be able to move and do the proper cleaning. We have other technologies we're using here. Are you seeing that yellow string up? You may ask yourself why there is cow down here, but we have mitigated the flies. Those are traps. I don't know. There are so many different types of traps you could use in agriculture, both in a crop farming and dairy farming. So we can either use the system of a strip. You tie a strip up there, yellow in color, because the black flies are attracted to the yellow color. But remember, it has gum on it. But that gum of glue that it has on it is dangerous to the flies. So it will be attracted to fly onto it and it will get stuck there. The moment it touches it like so, it will not get off automatically. And the moment it gets it there, and if it tries to test the gum, it is poisonous. It dies eventually. So it will die from there and it will not get off. You ask yourself why it is darkening, but it was completely yellow. It's because most flies are being trapped from there. So that's why it's darkening a little bit. So that is why we are able to give these cows that freedom to feed properly without any distortions of distress from external factors like flies. You get? Because these flies can really bite to a point that even when I'm standing here, they bite me, I can feel the pain so much. So I'm imagining an animal that cannot touch itself. You get my point? So this is one way how we are able to improve our production levels here, because we are giving that comfort, that freedom to the animals to feed properly without any distress, and in that way they are able to give us a high amount of what? A high amount of milk. Because on average here each animal produces about 20-25 liters per day. You get my point? So I'm taking you through. Let's keep stopping as we're talking. So we advise farmers if they could afford in any one way to put up such kind of system of scrapers. It could not be this. It could even use a chain because I recommend using a chain because these wires sometimes they keep breaking in the long run. They're not user friendly so much, but here we can afford it. This is the government institution. But other farmers who want to implement something nice, they could probably, depending on the design of this building, we could not use a chain system. That's why you may ask me if a chain system is cheap, why did you implement it? We cannot use it reason being it will not follow the design of the building. But for somebody else who wants to implement a scraper at their farm, I would recommend they use a chain system because for it is more durable. Then you may ask me why you have that. That is it's like a massage parlor, it's like a scratcher or something. That system, um, the moment these animals, let's say they are being bitten by the flies, this animal here, if it feels like something itchy, it will go run to that machine. It will tap it twice, and automatically the machine will start rolling. It's like a brush kind of. So for it, it's something that you got to feel good when it's what running on its skin. You get it's like a hard brush, like a hardware brush, but it works efficiently for each animal. The moment they tap it twice, it will start rolling all through, giving them that comfort. If the idea here is easy, if on the back is easy, you find it going there, taking that particular part there, and it will be rolling until they know how to use it. At any time, T, if it feels like it wants to go and use it, it feels like it needs it, it will go and eventually apply it.
It puts it knocks the animal puts
it knocks it twice, like I said. Like it goes there
the way animals wrap themselves
on the walls when they're yes. So now they know and they're all over here. We have them here, we have them there, here and there. So they will knock and eventually it will turn on automatically. So it will keep rolling. Come again? It runs for 60 seconds. That meaning it runs for what? A minute. You get my point? It automatically goes off. Exactly. So it won't waste your electricity, and yet it will not need supervision every time for it to operate. No, because the animals know what to do. So up here we used to have they are called the fans. We used to have fans. We think those things up there. You may ask me what the fans used to be, so they are taken for repairing. They are still taken for their spare parts from abroad because these are machines which are brought from abroad. So most of their spare parts are coming from abroad. So for servicing and maintenance, we are removed and unplugged for maintenance. Otherwise, we would have seen them. So eventually, during the summer seasons, what seasons like this one, where it has been so hot previously, those fans, they were working like air coolers. You turn them on, they are connected to a water system, so it works like an AC background. So what they are blowing is called moist air. That's my point. Like it's cool air. So eventually, these animals are feeling hot. Remember, with the process of digestion, it increases the heat, the heat temperature within the cow system. So as the digestion is ongoing, they are feeding that heat, adding on the environmental heat. Those are factors of stress. So we don't want that stress to these animals. What we do, we always turn on those fans. I'm telling you all these things because you have to know these aspects in case you want to start your own fan. Maybe you're being a consultant, somebody who may want things that are going to give comfort to their animals to increase productivity. Because even these are things that can be done by any person. You get it? So those fans will turn them on, connected to the water system. They are blowing air that is cold and moist at the same point. So meaning it's giving these animals courage or comfort to keep feeding. Meaning you're increasing. Remember, the more we have a big high, okay, maybe if you have a high intake per day, that calls for high production. Because that's what you need. One high productivity. So you have to encourage intake of feed. The moment you don't feed here, you're going to have low production that day. And it will be self-evident. Because here we have a milking system. I don't know if you're interested to see this. It's a new mechanized system. It's the automated milking system. It works automatically. I'll show you how it works. And it's connected to a computer system up there in our server room where we are able to track how much per hour, per animal which has entered per column, how much it's producing at that particular time. So meaning we are able to track automatically how much each animal is producing per day, and you're able to track a difference from yesterday and today. And then we will get to venture into why did that happen? Was it the environmental stress? Was it the feeding that was insufficient? Was it the mixture that we used? So if you get back to zero all that, and then you have to look for a solution at the end of the day. So here we look at every detail that you may despise. Here, every detail matters to us to come up with a solution. So, meanwhile, these animals are grouped. These animals have been grouped depending on their levels of what? Depending on their stages. These are lactating animals. You may ask me what are lactating animals. Lactating animals are animals that are giving milk. So all this, as you're seeing it, this group, they are milk givers. These ones are partly have been subdivided into heifers, what we call the bulling heifers and the yearlings. Yearlings are these animals which have been weaned, but they are past that level of weaning. Because weaners usually are from 4 months to 8, 9 months. So yearlings are between 9 to 12. The other group down there. So these ones are bulling heifers from 12 months onwards. And then this other group, these are these ones. This is a replacement stock which has been served. They have been inseminated and they are ready to calve down anytime. So these are like literally from this stage, but these ones are not ready for servicing because of very many factors. We consider the age, we consider the breeding weight because breeding weight also matters. So the other ones have reached a breeding weight of 300 kgs plus because you cannot inseminate an animal that is underweight. Otherwise, it's going to have difficulties in calving down. Like how we see some ladies cannot conceive because a young girl cannot conceive because she cannot give birth. Her bones will be small and all the structures are small. So, in other words, she will have difficulty in giving birth. Same thing with the animal. All these are factors to consider. So, all that group is the same. These are a new replacement stock which comes from this. They have never been on that before. All of them is going to be their first time. Then that group, those are the dry cows. Some of them are in calving, some are not, but those are all dry animals. What I mean by dry animals means are not giving us milk anymore, but we are ready for conception. They are ready for conception, but they are given back before either thrice twice or 4 times. These are old animals, these are mature animals. They are granted. These are kids. They are upcoming. They are upcoming. But they don't want they are old, but they don't want a number of times.
These are freshers, yeah.
The ones that make it are this one. What you feed is not what you feed here. The feed composition here is different from this. These ones are in calving, meaning they are bearing calves inside. They are almost giving birth anytime, like this other group. However, this other group, they are in calving, but 2 months, 3 months, you get. They have the same gestation period as human beings, 9 months. Animals. So these ones are literally close to giving birth. They are 8, 9 months. That's why you see it's pregnant, they are heavy. You get. So these ones, what we feed them is completely dry matter. We don't want to give them a lot of proteins, a lot of fats, a lot of oils into their system. This would rather give them energy, moderate energy, which is going to help them to reserve some residues into their body. If in case they give birth, they will have some energy they will use at that point when they are being when they are being milked, because animals require energy in giving milk. So at this stage, if you don't nurture them so well with what you're feeding them, you're going to have difficulties in receiving milk here. When you look at this animal, you may think it's pregnant. It's not. It's not, but because of the fact that we fed it so well, the transitioning from here to here was moderately maintained. That's why it is able to keep its body conditioning good. So from here, we add more proteins and oils here and more fatty acids and what, because we want them first of all to retain proteins in the body to make sure that they maintain their body conditioning. We also give them out of carbohydrates because we want them to have a lot of energy levels so that they could be able to produce more milk. Which is not the same thing here. Here we only give small energy, moderate energy. You don't a lot of proteins, rather, because if they have a lot of fats, meaning it's going to bring difficulties also in calving down when giving birth. So we have to be very careful with that at the end of the day. So, looking at the other side, this is going to be the automated milking system I want to show you.